The Japanese mobility show took place on October 22nd and is still technically going on. To be honest, the stars of the show have already emerged, and there's two specifically that have really captivated most people's attention. While there were some surprises, I guess you could say, like the Honda Prelude and the Subaru Sport Mobility, the main characters in today's story were Mazda and Toyota. The future of the sports car might look a little grim, but it looks like these Japanese automakers are trying to change that outlook. Mazda showed up with the Iconic SP and Toyota with their FTSE. I'm Ron, and in this episode I'm going to walk you through everything that you should know about the Mazda and the Toyota so you can stay up to pace with every car update. Let's get to the show. Before we get into this week's episode, I would like to thank my members of the channel. Thank you, everyone. And by everyone, I mean Bedanzo. So thank you, brother. He is my first member of the channel. You can be one too and get a weekly shout out by joining below. Members of the channel help support what I'm doing, so thank you very much. And shout out to you, brother. You are my first member to be shouted out. Thank you. As I was saying, the mobility show began on October 26th, and leading up to it, we were hearing certain things about what could possibly be shown off at the show. In those rumors, we had talked previously about the MR2 successor, which maybe is not an MR2, it's hard to tell, but that's basically what the rumor mill has been. And since then, we've learned quite a bit. Now, I will get to the FTSE, which is what Toyota has called the MR2 looking concept, but I want to talk about the Mazda Iconic SP. The Mazda Miata is at the heart of the sports car, if you really think about it, and there's been other people who have made a much better case as to why this is true. But keeping this in mind and knowing that the Miata is a cherished platform that has frankly stood the test of time better than basically any other car, while staying true to its initial values. Because we know this to be true, that it's such a cherished platform and we should all care about what this means for the sports car world. If this SP is supposed to replace the Miata in future years, it has a lot it needs to accomplish. Now, whether or not this new concept will actually stand up to what the Mazda MX-5 delivered and continued to deliver will depend on what Mazda actually produces as a finished car. Now, here are the specs of it, just so you have a better idea of how different it is from the MX-5. This concept uses a rotary engine and 2 electric motors to power the wheels. So essentially, in terms of driving characteristics, it will be like an EV with power delivery, because it basically is beyond the rotary drive system. That is the other new part. They are throwing a rotary in this prototype concept. Now, whether or not we get that, I don't know, but I do understand that the rotary has had a lot of work done to it since the last time it was in a production car. I would see no other reason as to why they would even announce that it has a rotary engine if they hadn't done more research and development. But already in terms of specs, we can see that it's not a traditional internal combustion engine manual traditional sports car. It is a different breed. Now, even though it is different, Mazda does claim that it offers what we want. Directly from the initial announcement, here's what Mazda had to say. The low and long hood design was part of considering the drivetrain and that methodology with the rotary and the 2 electric motors. Obviously, this concept car has really good visibility, but the more important claims that they made in the initial announcement were that its weight distribution and dynamics in handling are great. Specifically, they claim that it has a 50-50 weight distribution and that it's only 1,450 kilograms, which is this in freedom units. And through the electric motors that it's attached to, it has a power to weight ratio claimed to be 3.9. Here's, I don't know, 3 cars for comparison that also have a similar power to weight ratio, just so you have an idea. Hopefully with stats like these, if it does make it to a production car, it will fulfill the role that the MX-5 has always had if they choose to get rid of the MX-5 by replacing it with something like this. I don't know if we'll see that, but we do need to keep that in mind with a concept with this Mazda. In terms of design, not everything in design is going to make it to the production car, but we do have tiny pop-up headlights, which is super cool. There's also gull wing doors, which also likely won't make it to production. However, the pop-up headlights, as long as they're up while you're driving, maybe they can go down when it's turned off. I guess we'll have to see about that. But you can see design elements with the RX-7, especially in the back, and then obviously the MX-5 taillights. Design with cars like this is really important because when Mazda claims that they want to make cars that are fun and good and to keep car enthusiasts around as we switch towards a new technology in terms of mainstream adoption, this is really important. And frankly, everyone kind of loves how it looks. I like how it looks, and that's great, and I'm really glad there's a rotary engine. Let's just hope that Mazda can deliver what enthusiasts want, because that's a car that targets enthusiasts. Beyond the skepticism, it is still exciting to see that Mazda is embracing the car enthusiasts of the world, even as EVs and other technologies start to take over that will fundamentally change the cars that we're used to. Another company looking to make a fundamental change with their sports cars is obviously Toyota. Toyota is known very well for being the company that actually cares. Ever since their new CEO made it to the top of the company, as he said, their cars can't be boring. And so far, this MR2 concept FTSE isn't boring. First of all, the concept itself apparently has some kind of composite material, so the body panels can be formed in a ridiculous way and make it look something different than what you could do with just normal steel. I'm sure that also helps with the weight of the thing, because the Toyota, this FTSE, is going to be all electric. Now, beyond being electric only, there's a ton of other notable stuff with this concept. Now, it's important to take a minute and pause, because if you really think about it, I keep calling it the MR2, but because it doesn't have a name, you have to consider this could be potentially a Celica or a Supra or something. They could also make a new name. It's hard to say exactly, but for now, we'll just keep calling it the FTSE, because while the internet likes to think that it's the MR2, realistically, it might be a while until we see this thing on the road. So the final thing worth noting about this concept car is that because Toyota also has Lexus, right, there's a possibility, given the prototype's steering wheel and what that looks like, that this car, when it comes to production, will get the drive-by-wire system in the newer Lexuses. Lexi? What this drive-by-wire system does is essentially at lower speeds, it will change the steering ratio so that you don't have to turn the steering wheel as much, whereas at high speeds, it changes it again so that it's just like a normal car with highway handling characteristics. In the past, the concept of a yoke steering wheel has been done. If you look at the Tesla Model S Plaid, it has a yoke steering wheel, but the problem with that is that you still have to crank it over and over and over again at low speeds to actually turn. If you want to do a quick U-turn, you're fumbling around with a rectangle instead of a steering wheel, which is the problem that Lexus has fixed with that technology, and it is my guess we might see that with this EV sports car. Frankly, I love that Japan is the country in which these cars are unveiled, because on the home front with electric cars, I don't necessarily have a lot of hope for sports cars. There are some cars out there right now that are promising, but what Toyota and Mazda and others, admittedly, although the other companies there didn't steal the show like these guys did, what they're doing is something I think a lot of people can appreciate. Unfortunately, it looks like we'll just have to wait to actually see what happens with these cars. That's always the case with prototypes and concepts, guys. So for now, I guess maybe someone can just throw them into Assetto Corsa if someone makes a 3D model. That would be pretty cool. But other than possibly that, I think we're just gonna have to wait until like 2030 or 2027 or whatever to see these cars in person. So from an enthusiast's perspective, that was a brief highlight of the Japanese Mobility Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe so I can fill you in every week of any car news like this with concept cars, racing news. I will keep you up to pace with every car update. And speaking of the show, I do have to be honest. I don't quite think that the format of just throwing everything from the last week at you is correct. Personally, I would much rather just make a story of one or two specific things and share that with you. So if you have any suggestions for what you want to see from me, leave any ideas in the comments below. That's going to be a wrap on this episode of ECU Every Car Update. Let me know which one you would rather have. If you could have one of these right now, would you rather have the Toyota or the Mazda? I'll be live tomorrow. Videos on Tuesday and Thursday. I will see you in the next one.